My name is Marcus Luke. I'm an enrolled Umatilla member, but I'm also from Thorn Hollow. The people from this land, the indigenous people, Walla Walla, Umatilla, the Umatilla River, or Umatilla is their lifeline. It is part of them, it is part of us. And more importantly, we must respect it. And the flood that happened in February 2020, we remember, we commemorate, and more importantly, we're better prepared. Thursday, August 29th, 2019. It rained last night. Sitting outside with my wool blanket I enjoy, my coffee in a Western handmade mug. The Umatilla River seems louder after rainfall. The wind is more audible too. It's as if the heavens open to share their sounds and sensation with us worldly creatures. Janet Conley, 2019, Bobsled Cottage.
Well, guys, the city of Dayton has declared an emergency due to what's going on. We're standing right next to the Touchy River now, and I want you to take a look just at these flows. Well, we've seen large tree trunks and even irrigation pipes at one point floating down the river.
Most of the county roads are eroded so bad that it requires heavy equipment. If the river was to breach the levee in certain spots, it could definitely devastate our city.
In February 2020, the overflow of the Umatilla River caused flooding throughout the Blue Mountain region, destroying homes, land, and leaving thousands devastated. It would not be an easy task to clean up this disaster. People from all over needed to come together to overcome this natural phenomenon. And in the wake of all of this, the Blue Mountain Long-Term Recovery Group was formed.
We became aware a few days before the flood that we could expect a rain on snow event. So that alerted us prior to there even being any flooding. We had reached out to the National Weather Service, and they'd looked at they have a hydrologist there. And so she looked into it and said, I think you're going to be okay.
I believe we were one of the first ones to give a call to the emergency management systems because Liz Jessup called us back and said, we have something you can do. What is it? I said, well, we need you to go down and fill some sandbags. I said, well, sure, we can do that. And so I remember going to Roger, picking up my son, and on the way back, I was calling students and I was saying, hey, would you like to come help me put some sandbags together? For what? For flooding. Where's the flooding? I don't see any flooding. And it was prior to the floods actually coming. She had this intuition, or she had this knowledge ahead of time that floods were going to be coming.
I received a phone call here in Astoria in early February that there was flooding in the Blue Mountain region. And my phone call came from the president of Oregon VOAD. She is also a representative of the American Red Cross and was on her way to Pendleton to help establish a multi-agency response center.
1 year ago, we responded to the flood of the Umatilla River. With boots on the ground, we assisted those in need in many ways. We continue to be an active part of assisting the survivors in becoming safe, sanitary, and secure. CAPCO has been a part of the Blue Mountain Long-Term Recovery Group from the beginning, joining together with other partners across our state and across state lines to not only work on the recovery of this disaster, but also work to be ready for any disaster that may come.
There were a lot of agencies that came to the mark, and we set up a table to help with fundraising. And then I also went down to Umatilla County to see how we could assist down there. And they had a mark going on at the exact same time that Walla Walla County was having their mark.
The community, the response was overwhelming. And in fact, it became difficult to manage. We had so many offers of assistance, and all kinds of faith-based organizations, many churches came and contacted us and wanted to help.
I remember Liz being very wise and saying, let's look at the idea of creating a long-term recovery group.
At the meeting, which I think was on the 6th of March, hosted by Sunbridge, there's all of these disparate groups of people in the room. There were relief agencies, county emergency managers, folks from the city of Waitsburg, I think. There were religious folks from the LDS, from Adventist Disaster Services, from the United Methodist Church, and so forth. And there's all these people, Community Foundation and others, kind of sitting around the room.
So what is a long-term recovery group? I think before we explain exactly what a long-term recovery group is, let's talk about the stages of a disaster. You have mitigation that really the county is working on. The emergency management system is focused on avoiding the disasters. And then you have the preparedness, the option that you have to store up with water to make sure that you are ready for this disaster. And then you have the response. And that is where we were out there putting sandbags out, mucking people out, and really being part of that relief. But now we're in the stage of recovery. And that's where it takes a long time. It's something that happens over time. It happens with many different people helping and supporting. And so instead of having 30 different people contacting one survivor to see how they can be of help, the long-term recovery group is acting as the liaison between all of those groups to be able to offer support, to be able to cross-reference, make sure that you're getting the support you need, but also to make sure that resources are being used appropriately. One of the advantages, I will say, is that COVID hit. An advantage, you're saying, well, how is that an advantage? Well, one of the advantages that I see out of that is that had COVID not been present, we would have probably just created a Walla Walla long-term recovery group, and Umatilla would have created one, and and so forth, and it would have continued to maybe 3 or 4 of these small groups that would have been formed. But instead, because of the advances in technology, because of the willingness for people to meet remotely on Zoom or other platforms, we said, let's do it. And so we were able to pull more agencies to the table, more donors to the table, and cross, I don't know, pollinate's the right word, but be able to work in a way across borders, across boundaries, and across these state lines. I would encourage you to look at this disaster not as something that happened to us, but something that we can take and we can grow from, something that we can learn from, something that we can acknowledge that we can be stronger, we can be more active, and we can be a healthier community because we're serving and loving in this verb, in loving in action. And so thank you for participating in the Blue Mountain Long-Term Recovery Group. Thank you for your interest in seeing this flood recovery efforts forward, because we're here for the long term, and I think there's a lot more work to be done.